What is going on, everyone? This is the Week 17 builder for the NPBA, and this week I'm going to face the Miami Delphox, and this is a critical matchup for us as the Ann Arbor Ampharos are currently 2-4, which is not a good record, not where I wanted to be this season. I was a lot more confident in my team at the beginning of the season, I should say. Hasn't panned out too well. We've had some tough losses, a couple brutal losses, but some losses that were really close. And if I can pull it back here and win my remaining games, I'll end up very likely being in playoffs. But if I lose any of the next 3 games, I'm almost guaranteed out of playoffs. So there is a small chance I can make playoffs with a 4-5 record, depending on how things kind of line up. There's also a small chance I don't make playoffs with a 5-4 record. But really, if I go 5-4, I'm pretty much in. If I go 4-5, I'm pretty much out. If I go 3-6 or 2-7, obviously, I don't have a chance. But yeah, so this is basically a season-deciding matchup, as will the next 2 games be Week 8 and 9. This is a 9-week season, if you don't remember, or you aren't aware. Like maybe this is your first video, something like that. Anyway, I'll get into the matchup right now. So my team's on the left, and you can see my opponent's team, the Miami Delphox, on the right. This is a very interesting team. It does not have a Mega Evolution, but has a lot of scary Pokemon, and when I was prepping for it, I didn't even realize he didn't have a Mega, so that just goes to show you like the power of his team, even without a Mega. So first up, Zygarde, easily one of the scariest Pokemon on the team. This thing gets Coil, it gets Dragon Dance, 1,000 Arrows is able to hit flying types, and then, of course, Outrage, Scale Shot. Only thing it doesn't get is it actually doesn't get Dragon Claw, which is kind of interesting. So it's forced into either Outrage, which is not very good, or Scale Shot, which lowers defense. Scale Shot, though, still a good move, but inaccurate, so a little sigh of relief there that he doesn't have an amazing Dragon Stab move. That said, I could definitely see this being like a substitute Coil, substitute Dragon Dance, alongside 1,000 Arrows and maybe Sludge Wave, or maybe a Dragon move, or maybe losing the substitute altogether and just running Dragon Dance, or even Scale Shot. So this has a lot of sets. It could also be a defensive set. It gets Stealth Rock. Of course, it can use Toxic, things like that. On my team, though, I do have a couple answers to it. Celesteela can tank some hits. It can't do a ton in return, but I can at least Leech Seed it. Tapavini is also an amazing counter to it. All it has for that is Sludge Wave, which it doesn't really want to run because it's a special attack. It doesn't have any physical poison moves or electric moves. And of course I can do a lot of damage with Moonblast. And then Garchomp, we both have a Dragon Ground type. Garchomp is a little bit better than Zygarde. Overall, I'm going to be able to do more damage to him than he's going to be able to do to me. But he does have Dragon Dance, so if he's set up, he's faster than me. Of course, I'm faster if not. Otherwise, it kind of tears through the rest of my team. I have a decent ground weakness, and unfortunately, all 3, I'm not counting Kabutops, but all the other 3 of my ground Pokemon, my ground weak Pokemon are coming this week. And none of them really want to handle this Zygarde. So that's Zygarde for you. Next up, we got Rillaboom. Rillaboom, weirdly, not that scary this week. It's a very good Pokemon. It's actually one of my favorite Pokemon. I haven't had the chance to use it yet, but it gets that Grassy Glide on a very high attack stat with Grassy Terrain. Grassy Terrain is also going to lower the power of Earthquake, making my Garchomp a little bit weaker. Going to give some healing, which is going to help out stuff like the Zygarde, the Primarina. Also gets Knockoff, U-Turn, Drain Punch, High Horsepower, so it has some good coverage. Knockoff spam is going to be pretty annoying. U-Turn, of course, always good. And then Woodhammer just does a ton of damage. So I think this thing will come. It's a pretty good answer to Garchomp. Also very good into Tapavini. That said, it's pretty bad into Victini, Hawlucha, Celesteela, and Drapeon. In fact, it's almost completely walled by Celesteela. So if he ever has this thing, I can just go into Celesteela. He'll probably U-turn, which is kind of the problem with it. It gets U-turn. Problem with a lot of Pokemon, you can't really check them if they have a pivot move, but at the very least, we don't just straight up lose to it. So I'm not 100% sure that's coming this week. I'm pretty sure Zygarde will come, but if it does come, something to watch out for, just like a cleanup Pokemon in the end game, or a pivot in the early game. Next up, weirdly, this might be the scariest thing on his team, Rotom Heat. I am super weak to Rotom Heat, as I have 3 things weak to Electric, and the other Pokemon don't really want to take an Overheat. So this can run defensive, it can run Will-O-Wisp. Will-O-Wisp is also incredibly annoying for me. The only thing that really doesn't care about this is Victini, but the problem is Victini doesn't have any moves that can hit it back. Victini does not, as far as I'm aware, doesn't get any rock or water moves, so it can't do anything back. All I can do is just U-turn or like maybe V-create for some random damage here and there. That said, this thing also gets defog. Not that scary as I'm not bringing hazards this week, so I kind of hope he uses it as a defogger. It could be a Scarfer with Trick. I don't actually hate that. None of my Pokemon really hate having Scarves. But if you put it onto like my Celesteela, that'd be pretty annoying. Otherwise, Will-O-Wisp is probably the biggest threat this can bring this week, mainly for my Garchomp and my Drapeon. So Misty Terrain from Tapavini is going to be pretty nice. And it just has some pretty good damage output with Overheat. It is a straight up counter to my Celesteela. I can't do anything about it. I am running a rock move on Celesteela to deal with it, but I think I am. I might be wrong on that. I might have forgotten. But overall, this thing is very annoying and definitely a threat to my team this week. Next up, another very scary Pokemon, Primarina. So I have used Primarina a lot recently in another league. And this thing is a beast. Its special attack is so high, and it runs Choice Specs a lot. It gets Flip Turn for momentum, so he has his 3 of his first 4 Pokemon have a momentum move, and they're all different types. He's got U-Turn Rillaboom, Volt Switch Rotom, and then Flip Turn Primarina. Moonblast is also very scary for my team. Victini can definitely tank a Moonblast, but it's not like I can just then take a Water move right after, and I do have Bolt Strike, so Victini into Primarina isn't the worst thing in the world, but like I don't really want to do that. And then Celesteela can tank a Moonblast as well, can't really tank a Surf, Hydro Pump, Scald, and then kind of the opposite for Feeny, although Feeny's going to be my best answer for it this week. I do have Drapeon and Mega Manectric in the back for some nice damage output onto it, but it still has a ton of pressure it can put onto me with any move. Nothing can really wall this thing this week. So I would not be surprised at all if you brought Primarina. Of course, it's a great answer into Garchomp. So yeah, that's Primarina for you. It's also very specially bulky, so even like Mega Manectric doesn't do that much damage to it. It does a good amount, but it's not like crazy damage. Next up, he's got Bronzong, and Bronzong is probably going to come this week. It's a stealth rocker pretty much, but it has very good defensive typing. It's got Levitate, it's got Heat Proof, so if I had to guess, he'd run Levitate and make this thing just a straight up Garchomp counter, which it would be. If it's Heat Proof, then Victini can pretty much deal with it, as can Manectric with Overheat, but if it's Heat Proof, then they can't deal with it, but Garchomp can with Earthquake, so it's kind of a 50-50 for him, so I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't come. That said, it's still a very good rocker for him, and of course being a steel type, you can wall a lot of things. Not too scary this week, but like, it still could come. He's got Nihilego next, definitely another one I'm scared of. Mainly I'm scared of this thing because it can do a lot of damage to my Victini, as it's faster. It's faster than most of my team. So it does a lot to Victini, and it does a decent amount to Feeny. That said, it's very weak to like Garchomp, and pretty weak to Celesteela as well. And even Tapu Fini like can kind of handle it. So this thing, its biggest threat is probably like just hazard stacking. Can be a bit of a nuisance with that. I actually want to look up. I can't tab out of my window because it will stop my recording. So I need to look up if this thing learns fairy moves. I'm pretty sure we get like Dazzling Gleam, but I've got to check on that. So bear with me one moment here. Of course it gets poison moves, it gets rock moves, and it gets Thunderbolt. Oh, so Thunderbolt means it can hit my Celesteela. That's pretty annoying. And then it gets Grass Knot. It does get Dazzling Gleam, so I can't wall it with Garchomp. and it even gets foul play for like random stuff. So that's gonna be pretty annoying. Yeah. Yeah, that Nihilego gets a ton of coverage, so it could just be like a spec set and just have 4 attacks, which would be very scary. So I'll see what I can do this week against that. And then next Pokemon is going to be Mandibuzz. This is a great defensive pivot, defog U-turn, though it's kind of whatever against me. Like, it doesn't really threaten anything on my team. It could be like a physical wall against Garchomp and Victini, but like, it's not really ever going to be a big threat. I'm not like going to be surprised if he brings it as like a hazard remover, because it is one of the best hazard removers in the game. It's pretty similar to Corviknight in that regard. But I'm not really a hazard stacking team, so if he does bring it, it's probably just like a defensive pivot, maybe a toxic spread or something like that. I wouldn't be too surprised by. So Corviknight, you know, bulky flying type. Foul play could be annoying as well. Sneasel. Not a Pokemon you think of all that often because Weavile exists, but this actually has 115 speed. So outspeeds most of my team. Of course, Hawlucha and Mega Manectric beat it, but I'm not bringing Hawlucha this week. It's got a pretty good attack stat. I think it's like 105. I could be wrong there. And then, or actually it's 95 attack, I remember. And then it's got stuff like Ice Shard, Knockoff, Triple Axle, Swords Dance, Low Kick, I think. So overall, this is like big threat to Garchomp, also to Victini with dark moves, and can do some general damage. Not the most threatening thing in the world, but if he wants it to beat Garchomp and Victini, he could definitely bring it. Next up is going to be Gourgeist. Gourgeist is a great defensive Pokemon. It can spread Will-O-Wisp. It can just be bulky. That said, against my team, it's pretty bad. I have 2 flying types. I have a fire type and a dark type. So, and then Mega Manectric's kind of a fire type. So Gourgeist, maybe it's a Tapavini answer if it comes. I guess it's pretty good in a Tapavini, but that's basically it. Gourgeist is pretty bad this matchup. Not going to be too scared of that. Next up, Ursaring. Just a kind of big physical attacker. It gets guts. Not a lot to say here. It's not really good into Celesteela, and it's only like 55 base speed, and it's bad into Hawlucha, so if Ursaring comes, I'd be very surprised. And last up, we've got the Hitmonlee, an unburdened Pokemon, so can take advantage of my Misty Terrain. The thing about it is, why would you send in Hitmonlee on a Tapu Fini? That would be not very smart. So maybe he can take advantage of it somehow if I switch out and Misty Terrain is still up and he goes in on like maybe a Drapeon or Mega Manectric perhaps. But this thing has some good damage output, but not a lot of coverage, so it does get Fake Out. That's worth noting. If it comes, it's probably going to have Fake Out. And then just like a random Unburdened set. Gets Bulk Up, gets like Close Combat. Actually, maybe not. I think it gets High Jump Kick, which is kind of the same thing because I don't have a Ghost type. So that's Hitmonlee. If I had to guess his 6, which I'm going to do now, looking at his bottom 4 Pokemon, of the ones I just mentioned, Sneasel, Gourgeist, Ursaring, Hitmonlee, I think Sneasel's the only one that could come, and I think it might come. I think there's a good chance. The other 3, I would be very, very surprised to see. Hitmonlee, like, kind of surprised, but still pretty surprised. Definite brings are going to be the Nihilego and the Rotom Heat and the Zygarde, so that's 3 right there. And then, not really sure among the other ones. Primarina is also highly likely, so those 4. And then Rillaboom should come, and then it's something between Sneasel, Bronzong, and Mandibuzz. And potentially Rillaboom might not come. And those are the ones I mainly prepped for this week. Not paying too much attention to the other ones at the bottom. So with that, I will move on to my team. Hopefully I didn't take too long with that. But first up, of course, Celesteela. If you look at his team, Celesteela just walls so many different things. Like, it's a complete answer to Rillaboom. It straight up beats Nihilego if he's not running Thunderbolt, and if he is running Thunderbolt, it's not good, but at least I can kill him with Heavy Slam. If I should mention this set, I'm fully defensive with Relaxed Nature, so that's a negative speed nature, and then I've got Air Slash, Leech Seed, Leftovers, I should have mentioned, Air Slash, Leech Seed, Seed Bomb, and Heavy Slam. So this moveset is Air Slash for the Rillaboom, the Gourgeist, and the Hitmonlee if they come, mainly for the Rillaboom. Then we got Leech Seed for the Zygarde, the Rotom, the Primarina, basically anything. Seed Bomb for that Primarina. And then Heavy Slam is going to be my general stab move. Oh, so I'm not running a rock move for Rotom. Yeah, so I was thinking, like, if Rotom's in, I kind of have to leave anyway because Rotom can just kill me. So, yeah, no rock move this week, but I've got Seed Bomb for the Prim. And then, of course, the Heavy Slam is very important to kill that Nihilego. So, that's Celesteela. It's just going to be a big defensive wall, able to tank some hits and hopefully get some damage off. Heavy Slam is very strong on this thing. Next up, we got Tapavini, a specially defensive set, fully specially defensive. So I have just full Fizz-Def Celesteela, full special defense on Vini. Of course, I got leftovers Misty Surge. Misty Surge is going to be huge here. It's going to stop his Rotom from being annoying, basically. Pretty much exclusively because, like, it's good because of Rotom, but also Bronzong, Mandibuzz could be bringing Toxic, so it's nice there as well. His team has a decent amount of, like, status spreaders. He's got Toxic Spikes, so Misty Surge can help with that a bit. Of course, I got Defog. He's got a few hazard setters, so I want to be mindful of that and be able to get them away. I think he has 3 rockers in Zygarde, Bronzong, and Nihilego, and then he's got Toxic Spikes on Nihilego. I could be wrong on this one. I'm pretty sure that's it. So, of course, Defog's going to be needed there. Haze is specifically because Zygarde has Dragon Dance, Zygarde has Coil. I really don't want him setting up on me. Moonblast, of course, it's going to hit that Zygarde super hard. This is a good Zygarde answer if you can't tell. But it's also pretty good to like wall Prim to some extent. And then also it can... Oh yeah, it can tank some hits from Rotom actually and hit back very hard with Surf. In order for him to beat me with Rotom, this actually straight up beats Rotom unless he's like Specs, but that would be a not very common Rotom set. And if he is Specs, I'll be able to tell from calculations and then just go into Garchomp. So I don't actually think choice locked Rotom is good here because I think he wants that Will-O-Wisp, so he's probably just like a defensive pivot or especially defensive pivot. Of course, Surf is going to hit Rotom, Moonblast, and Surf combined for really good coverage. This is a good Nihilego answer as well. Of course, Surf doing a ton of damage to Nihilego. Not a one-hit KO because Nihilego is very bulky, but it is a 2-hit KO, so that's pretty nice. The only problem is Rillaboom just destroys this thing. If he has Rillaboom, I just have to switch out immediately. It's just how it is. So that's not Nihilego, but that's Tapu Fini this week. So that's our defensive core. Of course, very weak to Electric. But next up, we're going to have a heavy-duty Boots Victini. So I went Boots over Scarf. Those are kind of the 2 main items I run. The reason I went Boots was because he does have a good amount of hazard setters, and I really don't want to take Stealth Rock's damage. But Scarf, first of all, I didn't want to be choice locked because he has so many different like resistances to these moves. And also, it would only help me against Nihilego, and I can't even one-hit KO Nihilego unless I run Zen Headbutt. And I was going through my moves, and I basically have to run, like, I obviously have to run V-Create. It hits a ton of stuff on his team, and it's just good general damage. And then Bolt Strike is going to be needed for that Mandibuzz and that Primarina. Those 2 were pretty non-negotiable. Then I needed Glaciate because of the Zygarde. It's a 2-hit KO on Zygarde, even though it's a pretty weak ice move, and it lowers speed, which is nice. So even if he switches out on it, it's still going to lower something's speed, and I can then U-turn away safely, or just like its speed is lowered, which is generally good. And then of course U-turn. I really want the pivot potential on this team because I don't have a lot of pivots. The only other pivot I have is that Manectric, so the only, like, I could drop U-turn, I could drop Glaciate, but I really wanted to be able to hit that Zygarde, so I couldn't fit in Zen Headbutt on this set, unfortunately. Would have been nice. If I could run 5 moves, Victini would be incredibly strong. That said, it's a pretty simple set. It's just max attack, max speed, almost max speed, enough speed to outspeed the Zygarde, and then some HP. I got a hasty nature. That might be the wrong nature. It should be the nature that raises speed and lowers defense. I've got to check after the video if that's the right one. But anyway, this is what Victini is. It is going to be able to tank like a power gem, like 1 power gem for the Nihilego, unless it's like Specs or something. So that's pretty nice. So after Victini, as I was saying, our defensive core is weak to electric, so of course Garchomp has to come. Garchomp is pretty strong here. Just a Life Orb set this week, and I'm just going for straight up damage. So you'll notice I'm a naive nature. I actually have a good special attack stat. That's so my Fire Blasts can do a lot of damage to Rillaboom and also Bronzong if he brings it. So I have Earthquake, and Bronzong has Levitate or Heat Proof, so there's no way Bronzong can wall me if I have Earthquake and Fire Blast. So that's the nice thing about this. And then Fire Blast also for that Rillaboom, and even Gourgeist if he brings Gourgeist, which would be weird. Of course, Dragon Claw is going to do a lot of damage to that Zygarde. Stone Edge, a lot of damage to Rotom Heat. This is kind of our best answer to Rotom Heat. Of course, I resisted Stab. Unfortunately, I am going to be weak to that Will-O-Wisp, but on the bright side, I do outspeed and can hopefully just kill with the Stone Edge before he can Will-O-Wisp me. Worst case scenario, he Will-O-Wisps me. I Stone Edge like before he Will-O-Wisps, and maybe he lives because he's defensive, and then I just Dragon Claw for the cleanup kill. And on a little bit of a bright side, since I'm a mixed attacker, I have that Fire Blast. If I'm Will-O-Wisp, Fire Blast can still do some damage. Like, sorry, I'm getting a phone call. 1 second, let me silence this phone. My apologies. So yeah, if I get burned, that Fire Blast is still going to do some good damage to his things that are at least weak to it. So the only thing to note is I'm running Dragon Claw over Scale Shot. I didn't think Scale Shot was really worth it. I'm kind of reconsidering that a bit. It might actually be better for the Zygarde because of Substitute. And then of course, getting the speed boost can let me outspeed the Nihilego. So on second thought, I think I want Scale Shot over Dragon Claw. I liked the better accuracy and slightly higher damage of Dragon Claw, so I'm going to have to go back into the damage calculator and make sure Scale Shot will do enough. But yeah, that might be a change, so stay tuned for that. I'll probably end up switching that, but either way, it's a dragon move to deal with that Zygarde. And Naive Nature, by the way, will lower my special defense, not my defense. For this one, Hasty Nature will lower my defense, not my special defense. This one, it's just so I can take on the Zygarde a bit better. So, next up, we got Drapeon. Drapeon is actually surprisingly very strong here. It's a great answer to Rillaboom, it's a great answer to Primarina, and let me think. Let me just go back to his team. It's really good to one other thing. Oh, it's actually pretty good into Bronzong. So, of course, I can knock off the Bronzong. It's a choice band set, so I have enough speed to speed tie the Zygarde. Zygarde, it might run max speed. If it does, it's a speed tie. I'm okay with that. I have really high defense. I can at least live 1,000 arrows. And then I've got Ice Fang. Ice Fang is not a 1-hit KO, but it's an easy 2-hit KO. It does like 70%-ish, something like that. Poison Jab, going to be very good damage. Going to just 1-hit KO the Rillaboom, 1-hit KO Primarina. And then we got Rock Slide. So Rock coverage, his team has a decent Rock weakness. Nah, it doesn't really, but like Rotom Heat and Mandibuzz are both weak to Rock. So having Rock Slide, mainly for the Rotom Heat, as I said, I'm pretty scared of that Rotom Heat. It's pretty nice. It's not going to be a 1-hit KO unless he's like no defense. So that's unfortunate, but like I can't really run anything else. Like the first 3 moves I definitely want, and then I have to have something. I might as well hit the Rotom Heat. It doesn't get Stone Edge. If I got Stone Edge, my life would be so much easier, but I don't get Stone Edge, so yeah. The only other option was like Earthquake or something like, I don't even know, maybe like Crunch or something like that, but I think Rock Slide's going to be pretty good here. It may end up being a surprise kill on that Rotom. So after this Drapeon, last Pokemon, actually a surprisingly, as it is in every matchup, a surprisingly strong pick. This Mega Manectric. I've got a Modest Nature, pretty much like always. This thing is so fast, it can usually run Modest because a lot of teams don't draft higher than base 115. This team's highest Pokemon is going to be Sneasel at 115 speed. So I get to run Modest, which means my Overheat, Thunderbolt, Volt Switch are going to all do a little bit of extra damage. Of course, I've got Lightning Rod, so I can hopefully swap into like a Volt Switch from that Rotom. If not, like I at least am threatening the Rotom, so we can't just freely Volt Switch all the time. Of course, Garchomp does that as well. So having 2 immunities to Electric is huge here, really shutting down that Rotom. Otherwise, Overheat, again, he's decently weak to Fire. He doesn't love taking Overheats on that Rillaboom and that Bronzong. And then Thunderbolt, great for Primarina. Unfortunately, Rotom Heat actually like walls me because he resists both of my moves, like Electric and Fire. So that's not fun. But Thunderbolt on a if I get to +1 from Lightning Rod, like Thunderbolt should do a good amount, or at least I can just Volt Switch out. And of course, I have Toxic. Toxic is going to be used on Rotom. It's going to be used on the Zygarde, which would otherwise wall me. Against Nihilego, it's not the best matchup, but I can just Thunderbolt it, do some damage, Volt Switch out. It's not an amazing matchup, but being able to be immune to Volt Switch is like good enough. It also is going to stop that Mandibuzz from doing much if it comes, so that's pretty nice here. Like, kind of breaking up that defensive core of Bronzong and Mandibuzz. So, talking strategy nearing the end of the video, but we got a few plans here. It's mostly just like chipping down stuff with Mega Manectric, Victini, and then cleaning up with like a Drapeon. Garchomp's going to be huge this match, going to do a lot of damage. I got to be really careful though. This defensive core isn't, it's kind of fragile because he has so many like things that are super effective against it. But hopefully I can do enough to him and not get set up on. I've got Haze for backup if that happens. But mainly these are just going to be kind of my safe switches, and I might end up having to sacrifice both of them at some point in the battle. But the other 4 are going to be doing most of the damage. Hopefully picking off his big threats and then cleaning up. And the more I talk about it, the more I want Scale Shot on this Garchomp, and I think that's going to be how we win the game. So stay tuned for the battle. It's going to happen later tonight, in about 3 hours. So I'm very excited. I think I can win. I don't think this is a bad matchup at all. I think it's, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like a favorable matchup, but it's probably even. It might be a little bit in our favor. Of course, my opponent is, I forgot to mention, he is 5-1. He is very good. So this is not like an easy battle by any means. His team is very strong. It's very well balanced. So I'm going to have to make some predictions. That Rotom Heat, like, I don't know what set it'll be. I don't know what set the Zygarde will be. And I don't know what set that Nihilego will be. Those 3 are the ones I'm the most scared of. And all of them have like multiple sets they can run. If I had to choose, I would really hope that Nihilego is not specs and is instead like a defensive or just like a utility set with like hazard stacking. And then I would hope that the Rotom is Scarfed, because I don't think Scarf Rotom is good here. I think defensive Rotom is good here, and I think Specs Nihilego is good here, but a lot of times they run the opposite, like not Specs Rotom, but Scarf Rotom, like a Choice Locked Rotom, and then a defensive Nihilego, or even just like a bulky support Nihilego. We'll see what he ends up doing. I'd be very interested to see if he brings any of those low tiers and see how he utilizes those. But this is going to be a really fun match. I'm very excited, so I'll see you guys in the game later tonight. Bye.